All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hockey fans of all ages, I am Beast Mike. You have now arrived on my train of thought. It's time to talk about the NHL Power Rankings. And like I said, when it came to the NBA Power Rankings, since there's 32 teams, there's no splitting it up like I did the NBA. So all 32 teams will be divvied up evenly. 8 teams per tier of 4. Let's not waste any more time, as we are pretty much at the Olympic break now that the games are almost over tonight. Let's get to business with the Fulton, Kentucky Zombie tier. Vancouver, yep, it's bad. They don't score goals. They allow some of the most in the league. They traded away Hughes. It has been a really brutal run of form for the Vancouver Canucks for the last couple years, not just with the on-ice production, but the behind-the-scenes stuff. This is why Rick Tocchet is in Philly now as opposed to being in Vancouver. It's been an abject disaster pretty much from the word go. Elias Pettersson, I'm amazed they're still there, to be honest. I would have thought he'd be gone by now or like seeking a way out by now. It's wild. Thatcher Demko is another one I would have imagined. I'm shocked he's still there. The point of it is, this is bad. This is really, really bad. And they're in the guy of the McKenna sweepstakes, absolutely. But not alone. St. Louis, similar to Canucks, and they may be the American version of it. It's brutal without all the drama and chaos. They're just naturally bad, and it's all the way weird, even with the Stanley Cup winner and Jordan Binnington. Have they just not recovered from the Game 7 loss to Winnipeg last April, where they pretty much had the Game 1 against the President's Trophy winners and they got their souls ripped out? That poor kid. There's a video of a kid who had his live reaction and basically got wickemed. It was basically his first sports heartbreak, and I completely understand, little homie. We've all been there as kids and adults. This is a different level of heartbreak. It's just pain. This is just nothing but pain. That's all this is. This ain't even heartbreaking no more. This is just bad. Well, no, I can't even say at least the Cardinals are coming, because the Cardinals aren't good either. They just traded away Brandon Donovan, so that's not great either. No, there's not much else to really look forward to, except for maybe the summertime in St. Louis, I guess. I guess we'll go with that. New York Rangers, bye-bye Brett Mann. What happened here? The Rangers literally almost 2 years ago were the President's Trophy winners, and a 2-2 situation with Game 5 in Madison Square Garden against the Florida Panthers. Best 2 out of 3. First to 2 takes it, and it goes to the Stanley Cup Final. They ended up losing Game 5 and then Game 6. Game 6 I ended up producing, and the Rangers have literally not recovered. They went from President's Trophy winner to, they didn't even make the playoffs last year. It has led to the firing of Peter Laviolette, and this season has been an abject disaster. So much so that Artemi Panarin has been traded already and got traded to the Kings. People are wondering, and I'm personally wondering, what happens to Mika Zibanejad? Does he get dealt? And ideally, as a Flyers fan, he gets dealt away from the Metro Division, because he has absolutely killed the Flyers at every turn and every time he's played against said orange and black. He had a hat trick in the last game that they played against the Flyers, for example. He tends to do that a lot. Anyway, they have one of the best goalies in the world in Shesterkin, but they're going nowhere even with him. He will not be traded, I'm sure. Calgary beat the Oilers. That's kind of the good news here. They at least beat Edmonton the last time they played each other earlier this week, and that's generally good to beat the Ops. It's always a beautiful thing. There's not much else that's really good except for Dustin Wolf. He's been amazing this year and is absolutely up for the Vezina. At least he should be. He probably won't win it because Calgary's not winning games. They're not really good at that. And they just lost their best player, well, one of the best players, Jonathan Huberdeau, who's now out for the season after said Oilers win. And that trade has worked out horribly for the Flames, I should say, when you think about it. Trading Huberdeau for Matthew Tkachuk, where Matthew Tkachuk is immediately revitalized the Panthers, and they've won 2 cups, and they went to the other Stanley Cup finals that Tkachuk was in. While Jonathan Huberdeau and company have not done that much to show for it, and Calgary is now a really bad team and not even the worst in Canada somehow. That's wild. We're going to stay in Canada with the next one and the True North. Winnipeg, not scoring. Yeah, they don't tend to do that. And unfortunately, instead of Connor Hellebuck being in God mode, Connor Hellebuck is only kind of pedestrian. And this could be the second straight President's Trophy winner to go nowhere near the playoffs, as I just mentioned about the Rangers. And in the case of Winnipeg, it's a real shame because I like the core that they've built and the run that they've had of form over the last few years, at least up until, I guess, this year, where it's just been disastrous and pretty awful. What do you do if you're the Jets? Do you trade off some of your core players, your franchise pieces? What do you even do now? How do you even move forward? New Jersey, so many concerns. And not just from me, it's from Devils fans, it's from their coaching staff. Sheldon Keefe is not having a good time in Newark, which allegedly people don't tend to have good times in Newark, but I digress. Anyway, 2 of the 3 Hughes brothers are here, and it has not worked out. They can't seem to score. They can't seem to do much of the whole goaltending thing. It's a pretty miserable situation up in Newark for the Devils, or just up in Newark, and then the Devils happen to be playing there. I do want to go see a game at the Prudential Center. I got to go see more hockey venues. But in any event, it's been a pretty rough form for New Jersey over the last few years. And they're not even the worst team in their own part of the country because the Rangers exist. Chicago. Bedard and who? What else do you really have here if you're the Blackhawks? I mean, you do have the best penalty kill in hockey, which, okay, cool. I think we can work with that. Yet, there's not much else here. They tend to allow a lot of goals, which I don't recommend. Connor Bedard's really good, but there's no one else really helping him out here. And it's quite weird. This is a pretty rough tenure, and sure, you kind of expect, all right, Chicago's going to take some more time to rebuild. Understood. But when does that clock start rolling from rebuilding to, okay, it's time to go to work, let's go make it happen here? Chicago waiting for more lottery luck? Or, like, how does that work? Like, how does this work for the Blackhawks? And when does Chicago turn around and make that next jump? And how much money will they have to bribe Connor Bedard to stay in Chi-Town? I do wonder about these things. I do wonder how that's going to go. Anyway, Chicago looks like they're kind of a mess. They're not mediocre like their tenants and the Bulls. They're just not good. Except for the whole penalty kill thing and Connor Bedard. Those are really good. And San Jose. Celebrate Celebrini. Understood, the Sharks are still pretty bad. Okay, got it. But they've got a bright future because they've already got their franchise player in it. In Macklin Celebrini, who has been an absolute machine this year. He's among the league leaders in points. He has been absolutely dominant. Will Smith isn't that far behind him because he's also been cooking. And they've got enough young kids that maybe in a year, possibly 2, if they can get their defense right, San Jose is going to be back, and they're going to be a menace for years to come as long as they can get their defense and goaltending proper. They look like they're going to be very fun and very entertaining to watch down the stretch. It just seems like a lot of the games are going to end like 6-5 or something because they allow a good amount of goals and they also score a good amount of goals when prompted. Again, Macklin Celebrini is probably worth the price of many admissions for San Jose. I think he's just so much fun to watch. Now let's get to Birmingham, Alabama, where there is no hockey team, but there is a tier. It's the Fork in the Road tier. Or the Monkey's Paw tier, however you want to call it. Nashville, solid power play. That's kind of the good news here. Their power play is not terrible. With Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi, cool. All right, understood. Unfortunately, not much else is all that great. UC Saros has not been very good, which is a little disappointing considering his past. Yet he hasn't been, great UC Saros for the last few years. It's still a little disappointing to see that. They don't necessarily score all that well 5-on-5, and it shows itself, and it shows itself in the standings. I like their main pieces, obviously. Philip Forsberg and company. I like what they've got there, obviously, definitely. Unfortunately, they don't move forward or move well when it comes to putting enough pucks in the back of the net, and it shows. And Nashville's probably going to be pretty bad again. It's a shame they can't really trade Steven Stamkos, who, yeah, that contract is looking a little dicey and a little nasty, and it hasn't looked great at all since they acquired him. That's not ideal. Philadelphia, better yet frustrating. As a Flyers fan, I can honestly say that the Flyers are not one of the worst 8 teams, and that's good, because they definitely were last year. Instead, they are a little frustrating because they are improving, yet you kind of want to see them take another step forward if they could. Guys have shown themselves in Vladar, who has played really well in net, and Trevor Zegras, who has really taken on the challenge of being that Philadelphian that's gritty and that's tough and that takes nothing from no one. Gavin McKenna should probably be a Flyer. I would still stand on that after the hands that he was throwing, and I completely agree with his decision to throw hands, how he threw it and why he threw them. Completely understand that's Flyer material. We need Gavin McKenna as a Flyer. Anyway, great work to see from Trevor Zegras, and Christian Dvorak has played pretty well this year. He's earned a new contract already. I'm re-signing Zegras ASAP. I think he would be a good look to keep around for a while. And Travis Konecny has played really well lately too. Unfortunately, there are still some things that persist. For example, the power play is still trash, and it has been for the last 4 years. It's been absolutely brutal to watch. And the Flyers in overtime are just ugly to watch. They're 2-8 if the game doesn't get to a shootout, where the Flyers are actually generally good in shootouts. Sam Harrison isn't very good as a goalie, but in the shootout, he's actually respectable. And to be honest, it's kind of wild seeing the Flyers went from a really good 3-on-3 team to a pretty bad one, and then went from the worst shootout team in the league to one of the better ones. It is very weird. Anyway, the Flyers are frustrating at times because they can never sustain momentum, at least good momentum. But they're at least improving and at least better than what they were. They're going to have a lot of money to play with in the summer. Let's see what Danny B can do with it. LA, healthy bread. And they got Artemi Panarin. I don't know if they're going to have enough time to get to the playoffs, but they did get the bread man out of New York, and we'll see if he wants to stay in Los Angeles. I do like some of their pieces, like Byfield and company. I do think the Kings could be something interesting if they continue to build it. I do like what the Kings are doing when it comes to the goaltending. They are generally good at that. They're 4th in goals against. That you can win with that. Unfortunately, they can't score with that, and that's a pretty big problem. You're going to have to put some more pucks in the net, LA, and Panarin can do that. The real question is, will he do that now that he's in LA, not in New York? Thank goodness he's out of the Metro Division, because he has terrorized the Flyers when he has had the opportunity to play against them. So as a good look to see that he's no longer there in the Metro. Good job, LA. We appreciate you. Ottawa, give and take. The good news is Ottawa can score. They can score a lot, and they're very good at it from the power play to 5-on-5. They're just generally good at putting the puck in the back of your net. They're also not that great at keeping the puck out of their net. They're not the greatest at that. They tend to give up a good amount of goals. You don't want to do that. Still, Ottawa winning tonight in what was a very good game against the Flyers, where their goaltending played really well pretty much from start to finish, and allowed the goal from Drysdale, but that was about it. It was still a very entertaining game between the Flyers and the Senators. Ottawa winning in overtime. That's a good look on their part. Ottawa is probably not making the playoffs, considering how good the wild card is and how good the Atlantic Division is. But they're going to give a lot of teams some real trouble on their way out. They're also really good at the whole face-off thing. That's generally a good thing. But then again, all Claude Giroux teams are. That's a prerequisite of a Claude Giroux team. Florida might miss playoffs. And it would be understandable, considering the 3 straight deep runs they've had, considering the injuries they've had to Sasha Bakov. I would understand. I would understand if the Panthers missed the playoffs and they came back swinging for 27 for the 26-27 season and just missed them. It's on the board, though. Sure, could the Panthers make a run? Yeah. And stay around long enough for Barkov to get back? Okay, yeah. And Aaron Ekblad? Yeah, sure. They could do that. I don't know if they're going to be able to, because, again, their division is nasty. And I don't know how many resources the Panthers are going to have to try to trade for more guys to stash and then unleash when they can figure out the cap the way teams have done over the years. The Panthers' quest to going back to back to back is going to be very, very tough after the Olympic break. Toronto, pretty brutal goaltending. That's really where we are when it comes to the Maple Leafs. That the defense isn't very, very good either. Sure, they can score. Austin Matthews does his thing. William Nylander's been a menace so far at points this year. Robinson's played well. Nice has played well. They've got some really good scoring, but the goaltending has just been yikes. It has just not worked. You don't like to see that unless you are a Maple Leafs op. Or you like to see Steve Dangle crash out and potentially spontaneously combust. That's also in play. Anyway, if you are Toronto, what do? Do you try to sell and get new picks? Do you try to flip some of your main pieces? What do you do if you are the Maple Leafs? Do you just punt this season and keep it moving, knowing full well that your pick may go to Boston? Which, knowing Boston, they're kind of good at making your mistakes turn into their gold. I don't know if you want that. We'll see what happens after the Olympic break when it comes to the Leafs. Edmonton, the usual suspects. Yeah, we've seen this before. This is Connor McDavid being in God mode. Leon Draisaitl not too far behind him. The goaltending being trash. And Evan Bouchard also being a menace on defense. And the usual suspects. Not much has changed for the Edmonton Oilers as they try to get back to their third straight Stanley Cup final. And maybe not against the Panthers this time. And maybe Connor McDavid could actually win the Cup. He could win a gold medal, because of course he could. But other than that, it's the usual suspects from Edmonton, as McDavid almost got 100 points before this Olympic break, which is absolutely absurd. Then again, he's like that. Edmonton scores goals, they give up goals, and it's just the way things are when it comes to the Oilers. And Seattle, learn from 49. Fun fact, earlier today I was at the auto show. En route to said show, I ran into a couple of Seahawks fans. They were wearing some really sweet jackets. I was telling them, as a Dolphins fan, as some of y'all know, hopefully they could beat New England and that they could make up for what happened in Super Bowl 49. They know what happened. We don't need to go over it. They are very kind of nervous, I would say. Both of them. It was a male and a female. Two different people in two different situations. One during the show and one while making my way to it. They were both a little nervous about it, and they were both kind of hoping that they can get revenge for what happened in Super Bowl 49. And when it comes to that game, I think Seattle, once again, I think they get it done 31-21, like I mentioned in my Super Bowl preview video, where now the Offensive Player of the Year, JSN, I think he wins Super Bowl MVP. Oh, yeah, then there's the Kraken part. Their goaltending is really good. This is a top 10 goaltending situation. They know what to do with Grubauer and company and defending his crease. They're top 10 in save percentage. They are top 10 in goals against. They know what they're doing to keep the Grubauer crease relatively clean. They've done well in that realm. Are they good with the whole penalty minutes? They are actually really good. They are amongst the best and most disciplined in the game when it comes to staying out the box. Good job on that part. For reference, the team with the most penalty minutes I will get to in the next tier. You can call that a tease if you will. I've already talked about the Panthers, for example. They are fourth in this realm. I've already talked about the Flames in this example. They are third in this realm. Seattle, as I mentioned, is very good in this realm, and they are the ninth best at it in terms of least amount of penalty minutes. Very disciplined. Good work on Seattle's part. We're going to move forward into Wilmington, Delaware, and the playoff tier. Anaheim. Coaching makes difference. Remember those years where Anaheim was terrible? Yeah, it was like the last 4 or 5 or so. They're not terrible now, and they could be in the playoffs now. Carter Gauthier, who is a very heavy Philly op, more so than Nick Sirianni at this point in time. But that's kind of hard to do. Anyway, Joe Quenneville is turning this team around, and this is wild because they just traded away John Gibson this past offseason, and they're turning this around. It's kind of weird, but it's the truth. Coaching matters, and Quenneville is doing his job, and is doing his job very well. I think he's one of the main reasons why Anaheim is in play here to make the postseason again. Should he win the Jack Adams? Yeah, I wouldn't Hate on it if you did. Washington, awful power play. What? Yeah, they have a terrible power play. I didn't see that coming. I never would have suspected it, but it is true. How true, you ask? Well, there are 32 teams in the NHL, as we know. Washington is 30th in power play. Well, tied for 29th, I guess, with 15.8%. This isn't even the most shocking thing when it comes to the power play percentages in scoring the goals inside power play. The Flyers, as I mentioned, usually are the worst team in the league at power play. They're somehow only 5th worst. For example, that's a bizarre comparison. But the Flyers are better than the Capitals in the power play. For reference on this, the Flyers scored a couple of power play goals against Washington a couple nights ago and beat them that way. Anyway, back to the Capitals. Ovechkin's still doing the Ovechkin thing, which is basically firing bombs at the net, because of course he is. And the Capitals in general are not an awful team. That's just an awful stat that I was able to find there about Washington. I think they could make the playoffs, sure. It's going to be a little tougher because the East is a logjam and the Metro Division is not great, aside from the 2 teams at the top of it. But it is doable for them to make the postseason. Will they? We'll see. Utah, growing up fast. Clayton Keller and company are moving, and I like that home ice advantage that Utah has, the Delta Center. I think they've done a really good job of renovating the place, and they have really put it together quite nicely up there in Salt Lake City. Their power play is not put together because they're one of the few power plays worse than Washington, and I'm going to get to the worst later. 15.6% power play conversion. That is pretty bad. It's 31st in the game, not great. And at least you would think their penalty kill. Is their penalty kill at least good? You would think so. That's why Utah is actually a respectable team. It's mid-tier, which at 79%, I guess you could dig it. But it's kind of weird that Utah is where they are right now, considering their stats. Except for the whole goaltending part. They're good at that. They are very good at the goaltending. They're top 5 in the league in terms of save percentage. You want that. Well, I think you'll take that. Good work on Utah for keeping a good goaltending situation despite their special teams not being great. That's not at least their power play. Their penalty kills at least average. At least there's that. Vegas, business as usual. Yep, the Golden Knights are going to stay around, and they're going to be a pest for a lot of teams. They're going to be a pest for everybody who hates the way that they did business and how they've effectively sold their souls for the Stanley Cup a couple years ago and may potentially be selling their souls for another Stanley Cup run. Jack Eichel's still doing his thing. That's always good. Mark Stone is obviously being the leader that he's always been, and Mitch Marner continues to be, well, Mitch Marner. But that brings me to the question I'm going to have for them. Mitch Marner, you're on a team that's good at this whole playoff thing, but you generally haven't been. Well, can you be? Can you learn from what they've done in the playoffs, the Golden Knights? Because usually Vegas makes deep runs. They're very fond of this. What about you? You haven't gotten out of round 2 in your career. Something has to give, right? Unless the Golden Knights go out in round 2 for the 2nd straight year. That could also happen as well. Columbus, is momentum sustainable? Ladies and gentlemen, this is your hottest team going into the Olympic break. They've won 7 straight and have absolutely cooked everything in front of them for the last few weeks. They have looked very impressive when it comes to putting pucks in the net over this time and have looked really good at keeping other teams at bay over this time period. For more on this, let's examine it over this 7-game win streak that these boys have had. They went 8. They put up an 8-piece on the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is after they shot the Stars 1-0, and Dallas is really good, and this is the reason why I haven't mentioned them yet. They put up an 8-piece on the Lightning, and the Lightning I haven't even mentioned yet. They won a really good game with the Flyers and won 5-3, which, okay, good there. 4-2 over Chicago, fine. They beat the Blues like you're supposed to, and then they beat the Devils like you're supposed to, and then shut out the Blackhawks like you're supposed to. They haven't allowed a goal in almost 3 games, which is absolutely absurd. Anyway, this is the hottest team in the game going into the winter break and the Olympic break. I guess the question is obvious. Can they sustain the momentum that they've just built? If so, then the Blue Jackets are going to be a terror to deal with. If not, then this just becomes only a nice story. unfortunately, for Columbus. Boston, you guys again. We got to deal with the Bruins again. I thought we were done with this. So we got a gap year where things went really, really bad, really, really fast for Boston. And they ended up trading Brad Marchand. And then obviously Marchand won another Stanley Cup and tormented the Toronto Maple Leafs once again, because of course he did. That's the way that it's supposed to go for Brad Marchand. He's part owner of that team. But instead, they're back. And it's not just Pastrnak. Geeky's played well. And they've generally done well in terms of scoring the puck. And their goaltending's not as great as I'd expect, but they're at least putting the puck in the net, which you take that. You take that all day. And they got the kid Minter, who has played really well. Maybe the next young star that's going to come up with Boston, and that's going to annoy all of us because Bruins. Why are you always here? Their power play is nasty, and they convert over 1 in 4 of them. They're 4th in the league in terms of the power play. They do have the most penalty minutes, though. That's a little bit of a concern. But aside from that, this is a legitimately good team, a legitimately worthy contender for not just the playoffs, and also maybe even the Cup, which that's the last thing anyone needs outside of the New England area. Another Boston team that can win a championship. Yeah, that's not great for anyone. New York Islanders, the NHL's Gunther. Yeah, there's a reason why I say this. Their offense, not great. Even though Matt Barzal's played well and Schaefer's played tremendously well as a rookie, could absolutely win the Calder. And they have done an okay job, at least their stars have, in terms of putting the puck in the net and making some good plays. When their stars aren't scoring, generally they aren't scoring as a team, and their goaltending is absolutely outstanding, and their defense is suffocating. They will basically put you in a sleeper hold if they have a lead, and the object of you getting out of it over the rest of those 60 minutes is not easy, because Patrick Roy won't allow it, and he kind of watches over you and potentially basically punches you in the gut as it happens, because he's potentially like that. Anyway, the Islanders are as somewhat boring as you can get, and yet their style works. And they win a lot of games by beating you 2-0 because they suffocated you for 50 minutes and then bagged an empty netter at the end of it. Yeah, they're like that. They're just that kind of annoying. And Buffalo, drought might end. For context on the Sabres, I was at their last playoff game. Said playoff game was in 2011. I was an intern at the Comcast Spectacor Foundation during this game. How long ago was this? Billy Leno was a Flyer. He scored a goal in that game. The Flyers won 5-2. That offseason, the Sabres signed Billy Leno. And this would kind of be the beginning of what would be the drought of the Buffalo Sabres in missing the playoffs, I should say. Why is the Billy Leno name important? He scored the final goal that was in that building in Buffalo in the playoffs. It was an overtime goal that allowed the Flyers to bring that game back to Philly, and then the Flyers proceeded to go BTA to the Sabres in said matchup that I was at. It was I still have the shirt for that, fun fact. Anyway, the Sabres could be ending the drought this year. They look like they could potentially be good enough to end said drought. They have played some real good hockey. Thompson has played tremendously well, Tage Thompson, as he continues to follow up. Another 30-goal season, and we still got 2 months to go. Yeah, he cooking right now. He absolutely cooking. Alex Tuch also cooking. He's not that far off behind him. And cooking here. Rasmus Dahlin has been an absolute menace as a defenseman, and just the guy that they needed to draft when he's been as advertised is the point here. This Sabre team is looking like they're the more stable team in Buffalo. What just happened? That's how wild the Buffalo Bills have fallen. I'm here for the Bills cratering, of course, but the fact that the Sabres look more stable is absolutely insane. But then again, Terry Pegula does own both these teams, and both have looked chaotic over his tenure at different times. There's also that. Anyway, let's get to Moynihan, and let's get to the New York City titles here. Pittsburgh, rising from dead. The Penguins looked like they were cooked. It looked like they were going to possibly trade Malkin or Letang and blow it all up, and then let Crosby serve his twilight years in Pittsburgh without much of a chance of winning a Stanley Cup. Instead, this is not like that. Their power play is good. Crosby and company doing their thing. Their penalty kill, also productive. Like, the point of it is, this Penguins team is back from the dead, where they were terrible at points last year. Their power play percentage is third in the league, and they're converting over 1/4 of the power plays. Unlike Boston, they don't have a conga line to the penalty box. That's always a good thing, I would say. They score a bunch of goals, like Boston and several other teams. They're top 10 in scoring, which, okay, you can ride with that. Could their goaltending be better? Well, not by much. They're top 10 in goaltending, so that's always a good thing. Pittsburgh is back, and that's painful for a lot of us who don't like the Penguins. No Flyer fan likes the Penguins. Let it be known. Detroit, return to Hockey Town. Sure, the Red Wings are below average when it comes to putting the puck in the net. Except for Lucas Raymond and Alex DeBrincat. Those guys are putting the puck in the net. DeBrincat's already got 30. What Detroit is good at, however, is their goaltending, and they are amongst the best in the league at such a thing. Good job by the Red Wings in getting back on track in this regard. Now, Detroit might actually make the playoffs and in their own kind of drought, where we went from 25 years of the Red Wings making the playoffs to about 5 or 6 straight of them completely missing them. That's not something that we're used to seeing. And now the Red Wings, like, they might potentially be back. I don't think they're cup contenders. In the Eastern Conference, the teams at the top of it, I think, are absurd when it comes to scoring and or stopping you from scoring. But the fact that Detroit's making the playoffs is progress. It is a heavy amount of progress. Good job, Red Wings. Montreal, points and penalties. The good news is Montreal knows how to score. They're the third best team in the league when it comes to scoring. The bad news is, if you want to call it that, they are top 5 in the league in terms of going to the penalty box. Their ops in Boston are number 1 in this regard. I already mentioned Florida. They are 4th. The Flyers are 6th. The Flyers used to be number 1 in this, so good discipline by the Flyers, I guess. Anyway, the conga line to the penalty box is one thing. It's quite another that, okay, cool, they can make up for it because Nick Suzuki has been cooking, Cole Caulfield has been cooking. They can put pucks to nets. This is a good job here. And they know how, and Suzuki knows how to pass, obviously. Montreal's getting scoring from everywhere. Demidov and Barkat and Savakovsky and a bunch of different pieces are putting the pucks in the net and keeping Montreal very well alive when it comes to the playoffs and or potentially hosting a playoff series. Good job of the Canadiens to get back to it after a couple of years in the wilderness after that Stanley Cup final appearance post-bubble. Their goaltending needs to improve a little bit, but other than that, I like what I'm seeing from Montreal. Keep it going. Carolina, hockey is Liv Morgan. If you learned anything from Liv Morgan in WWE, it's that she had a reputation of finishing second. Yeah, she's a former world champion, no question, and she's had, especially the last world title run, a really good world title run. But as we've seen in the big multi-person matches, Elimination Chambers, Royal Rumbles, things of that nature, she had a knack for finishing second. Now this year, she won the Royal Rumble and will choose her opponent for WrestleMania later on, this winter. Or at some point, maybe closer to the Elimination Chamber. But in any event, Carolina, as we've seen over the years, has had a reputation of finishing second in the East in terms of the conference final. We saw it the last 2 years against the Panthers. Last couple years against the Panthers, conference finals. 2 of the last 3, I should say. They got a conference final appearance against Boston. They got swept, but they got to the conference final. Can Carolina get there this time? Well, with the offense as good as it is, you would think so. With the goaltending being as top 10 as it is, you would think so. They have been the bridesmaid in the East for many years now. Can they actually be the bride and storm surge their way to the Stanley Cup final? We will see. Dallas, another deep run. This is another bridesmaid type time when it comes to the NHL, where the Dallas Stars are really good at making these runs. They've had 3 straight in the conference final, and yet they have found a way not to win in the conference final. It's not great, but they tend to do that. They tend to make that happen. Anyway, the Dallas Stars have been a really good team in this decade. And unfortunately, other than the bubble Stanley Cup final appearance, they have not gotten through the glass ceiling in the Western Conference. They may have a fight to the death upcoming against an ultimate op coming up in these playoffs that may prevent them from such a thing again. You got your usual offensive suspects in Mikko Rantanen and Robertson and Wyatt Johnston. You got your usual suspects in Mikko and Heiskanen just dishing dimes out. Like, you got usual suspects. And Jake Ottinger continuing to be in his bag because he's like that. He's a very good goalie. But can Dallas break through for once? Can they actually make that run all the way to the Stanley Cup final for the first time, non-bubble-wise, since the year 2000? Time will tell them. Minnesota need this showdown. That showdown I was referring to with Dallas, it might be with the Wild. As it stands right now, that's how it would go. Dallas and Minnesota would play each other in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Mavericks have had so many fights to the death over the last few years with Colorado and with Vegas and with Edmonton. And now this time, it could be with the Wild in the best of 7. I need it. Give it to me. I need to see this between the Wild and the Stars. And with Minnesota, Kaprizov is cooked and has earned the money that he's been getting. He's an absolute machine this year, as expected. Boldy has been worth the price of admission that they've signed him for. I would have loved for him to be a Flyer, but Minnesota did a good thing in signing him. He's bagged a 30 piece this year. They have been very good. Quinn Hughes was a good addition, trading some picks to Vancouver. That was a real good look. And the Wild looking like they'd be ready for the smoke if they had to face Dallas. I need it. Let's see it. Tampa Bay, 12th power play? With all that talent that the Lightning have in terms of their forwards, somehow that's where they stand. They are the 12th best team in the league when it comes to their power play. It doesn't really matter when Andrei Vasilevskiy can basically stop a beach ball from going into the net and can basically stop a kickball from coming at him if it was like shot out of a cannon or something. The point is, the Lightning are, the Lightning again. They're back to being Stanley Cup contenders and Stanley Cup favorites after a couple of years of being in their slumber or basically being put to sleep by the Florida Panthers. The point of it is the Lightning are back, and they're great at stopping you from scoring, and they're great at bagging 6 or 7 goals in a game. They're generally good at that. And they're great at making the comebacks, like the Boston game. That was outdoors at Raymond James. That was outstanding stuff by the Lightning. What a fun game that was. Tampa Bay might be back in the Stanley Cup final, and the state of hockey that is Florida might have their 6th straight finals appearance. 3 by the Panthers, or 7th straight, I should say. Both teams have 3 apiece. And Colorado, the worst power play? What? Yeah. The Avalanche have the worst power play in the league. This seems like nitpicking because they're great at everything else. They score the goals. They stop you from scoring the goals. They might have the Hart Trophy winner in Nate McKinnon. They might have the Norris Trophy winner in Cale Makar. They definitely have the best home ice advantage since they're 21-3, 21-3-4 at home, which is absolutely absurd at this moment in time that Colorado's that good when it comes to home ice. The point of it is, this Avalanche team is absolutely ridiculous, and they should win the President's Trophy, and it shouldn't be all that much of a fight for them to do so. And after that, they've got some scores to settle. I'm sure they'd want to see Dallas once again because Dallas has put them out the last 2 years. I'm sure they'd want to see Seattle again if they had to, because Seattle was the team that ended their Stanley Cup championship run. There's some scores to settle for the Avalanche I'm sure that they'd want to see. And Dallas, for that matter, has put them out 3 times in this decade. This includes the bubble. Colorado, are you capable of making another deep run to the Stanley Cup final and getting another cup for Gabe Landeskog and McKinnon and Makar and that whole crew? Can your power play improve from 32nd out of 32? You would think so with their talent, but I guess we'll see. And there you have it. That's the 32 teams in the NHL. Now, because the Olympics are coming and hockey is going to be off in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to leave the NHL Power Rankings as they are until the week after they return. So we won't hear the NHL Power Rankings. NBA-wise, you're going to get a similar thing You're going to get your Power Rankings NBA-wise Wednesday, but after that, it's the All-Star break, so I'm going to take a week off from that as well. So there'll be a week of NBA next week, and then neither gets a week. And then we're looking at the last week of February for both of them to return. So that's kind of how this is going to go when it comes to Power Rankings, since there's going to be so much off time for both leagues. And as for what's coming next on this channel, well, I've got that occupied. Miami Mock Mondays, Volume 3 will happen on Monday. That will mean this draft will be a little different. Will I pick Rutledge for the third straight week? We will see. How am I going to decide about the receivers? How will the board fall? All that good stuff. And will there be any reaction towards any of the Super Bowl winners, whether it be Patriots or Seahawks? We will see when we get to Miami Mock Mondays. That will be the first stop of my next train of thought.